Into the mic. Okay, sorry. I think I'm loud enough. They could probably hear me without that, but I prepared for 1 minute because last time I came, I got cut to 1 minute. So I'm hopefully going to get right to the point. Of the 5 elementary schools that are on the closure list, 3 of them are meeting state standards. The 2 middle schools recommended are the top performing middle schools in the entire district. They outperform every other campus, yet these are the schools that are targeted for closure. Meanwhile, several campuses risk for TEA intervention or takeover remain untouched. Why is this not what we are considering or what we're looking at? We are here to educate, but are considering closing the very schools making the grade. Shutting down your successful schools does not solve problems, it creates new ones. For families at JMS, the impact is even greater. 65 to 70% of our students walk to school. If the school closes, they lose safe, walkable access and face long commutes that reduce opportunities for tutoring, athletics, clubs, and after-school support. And the timing couldn't be worse. Announcing closures right before state testing will absolutely impact the scores, student performance. When students learn their schools are closing, test scores will fall. The reality is that parents also have choices. Nearby higher rated districts, private schools, homeschooling, and vouchers all give families alternatives. When you move students from high performing schools to failing campuses, many families will simply choose to leave. If it was my daughter and you took my daughter from a passing campus to a failing campus, we would move. You are impacting her future by doing so. This is not a strategic plan or responsible stewardship, and it isn't what is best for our students or district. The potential that TEA is likely to take over our lowest performing campuses should be part of the planning process and not ignored. We should not close high performing schools to compensate for decisions the state will soon make us for us. At the end of the day, our job as a district is education, and I urge you to reconsider these proposals, re-examine the data, and make decisions that reflect logic, responsibility, and above all, what is best for our students and district. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fleming. Okay, next up is Ms. Lori Putt, and on deck will be Ms. Lisa Pfeiffer.
Good morning. Thank you for allowing me to be here. I'm Lori Putt. I'm a sitting city council member for Universal City, and I'm also a very, very, very long resident of Universal City, and my yearbook is in your showcase, so that's how long I've been here. You've archived me. Over the past few days, several residents has reached out to me and asked me to come to speak to you about their concerns. They're really, they feel like their input has not reflected the direction being taken, and that recommendations presented publicly have not consistently matched the actions being considered. When confidence in the process weakens, community instability follows. I know demographic trends are part of this evaluation. However, in Universal City, we're a very unique community. We're a military community. You have people who have retired here and then are moving on to retirement homes or the ARC or in with their children. And we have a large influx of the new base people who are coming in, and they have small families, and they are looking for those community schools. They're looking for stability. They're usually not here for more than 4 years, and they want to give their kids the most enriched experience that they can have, and we've been having that here in Universal City and in Judson schools. Difficult decisions sometimes must be made, but they must be made through a process that public clearly sees as transparent, accurate, and honest. And right now, unfortunately, many residents don't feel that that standard is being met. Beyond the uncertainty of this on-again, off-again closure list, many of us are frankly disappointed in how this is being handled. The Planning and Growth Committee members are to be commended for fulfilling their duties and standing strong. Judson has always expected its students to uphold the district's values, which are leadership, positive school culture, and the leaders should model this at all times. City and district leadership ultimately serve the same families. Our goals are exactly the same. We should be strong, we should be stable, and we need a community that is built on trust, not on uncertainty. Community memory is long. When future bonds or Vader proposals come forward, public trust will reflect the transparency demonstrated in this decision. I've sat on the dais. It's a whole new game changer sitting up there. And I thank you for your service, and I know how hard what you are going through is, and I commend you. But let's keep our community and our students in mind. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilwoman Putt. Okay, next up is Ms. Lisa Pfeiffer, and on deck will be Lisa Harloff.
Good morning. My name is Lisa Pfeiffer, and here we are again, February 14th, Valentine's Day, but I don't think there's a whole lot of love in this room or in this district. The first two speakers made some very, very good points, and the district is supposed to be about educating, so I don't think it's wrong to ask you guys to educate yourselves on what the real big picture has to do with these closure plans. And you need to stop sowing chaos and confusion by changing this list and changing this list. You post an official agenda. And, oh, well, no, we're not discussing those today. Go look at the agenda for next week. Can y'all please get it together, okay? But you don't just need to come up with these names of campuses. You need to come up with plans for the students. Like if Park Village Elementary closes, are they going to move down Mid-Crown and be integrated into Hartman Elementary? You need to come up with plans for staff, for those who are still here after all the chaos that has gone on. The equipment. And people are even concerned paying for so many bond issues to build these schools. What's going to happen to these schools? And don't ever look, I would say maybe for the next 10 years, for any public support on a bond issue. Okay? Now, jumping ship and going to agenda items 6A and 6C, I'm also here to support Trustee Macias. What I'm reading in this agenda is laughable. It's like flabbergasting. But I do hope Mr. Macias gets due process, unlike some other people that did not. But the one thing, I'll also support item 6B. This is definitely needed. I think this board needs to stop doing anything and everything until the board is investigated and what's been going on in the district. And then once all that settles out, maybe we can move forward as a district in the best interest of the students. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pfeiffer. All right, next up is Lisa Harloff, and on deck will be Councilwoman Fitzpatrick.
Good morning. I'm Lisa Harloff, a teacher of Judson Middle School for 9 years of 27 years of my teaching, and a parent of the district. My son goes to Judson Middle School with me because I trust the teachers that are there, okay? I'm concerned with not knowing which list is being used and what are the real decisions being made for the closings of the school. Because it is very difficult to know when we really don't know what's going on. I understand something needs to happen, but Judson Middle School is a feeder of Judson High School. And a lot of kids walk from here to there, and you can see them. And I see former students that I have taught, and it's concerning. Most people are going to other venues because of this and leave our district because of decisions being made or not being made. In that instance, leaving us with fewer students to educate and not money coming in because of it. That is a concern as a parent and an employee because of what will happen to us as a district because of this. Please think about that.
Thank you, Ms. Harloff. Okay, next up is Councilwoman Fitzpatrick, and then on deck is Mayor Maxwell.
Good morning. I'm Councilwoman Christina Fitzpatrick. Over the past several years, there has been a growing erosion of trust between the community and JISD leadership. Many of these concerns center on fiscal management, transparency, and planning. The use of temporary COVID relief funds to hire permanent positions created a long-term financial obligations with short-term revenue. Using one-time disaster funds to balance the budget delayed necessary structural adjustments. That period could have been used to make sustainable reductions and implement long-term financial corrections. Instead, those decisions were postponed, bringing us to where we are today. Equally concerning is the lack of timely reporting and transparency. Established deadlines for reports for the board were missed. The Growth and Planning Committee did not receive the requested data points necessary to make fully informed recommendations regarding school closures. Without consistent criteria and complete information, the process appears to be inconsistent and undermines public confidence. At Wednesday's Growth and Planning meeting, schools were added to and removed from consideration using the data that had not been consistently applied through the evaluation process. Introducing new or selectively applied metrics late in the process raises legitimate concerns about objectivity and fairness. The decisions before you today are significant. School closures affect more than a campus. They impact students, families, neighborhoods, property values, and long-term community stability. While children are resilient, disruption should be minimized. These decisions should be deliberate, data-driven, and transparent. Universal City has experienced multiple school closures across both districts in recent years, including the closure of Coronado last year. An attempt to repurpose the facility with little notice created additional instability. Families choose communities based largely on the strength and proximity of schools. These broader implications must be weighed alongside with financial considerations. We recognize that difficult decisions must be made. However, the urgency of this moment reflects a need for stronger long-term planning. As elected officials, you had the responsibility to not be at this point. You need to critically evaluate the recommendations before you, question assumptions, and ensure the process is equitable and transparent. We respectfully ask that you carefully examine the data, address inconsistencies, and fully consider the long-term impact on every community you serve before taking any action. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Fitzpatrick. All right, now up next will be Mayor Tom Maxwell, and on deck will be Melissa Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam Ryan, and Board of Education. I'm Tom Maxwell. I'm Mayor of Universal City. I am here to represent my citizens. My council has been in full support of the Judson School District since the day I took office. I spent 12 years on city council prior to taking office 2 years ago as a mayor. I don't really need all my time because everything that I wanted to say has been said prior to. I am concerned about a comment that was made the other night, Wednesday night, and the indecisiveness of the plans that were stated Wednesday night to what we're doing today, because we seem to be jumping around and making changes last minute. Processes is kind of the thing we're talking about. The comment was made that I don't know what was happening because we don't have any experience. You're telling me in the state of Texas, with all the school districts we have, that nobody has ever consolidated a school? There's thousands of processes around the state and the country that can all give you the processes needed and the things to look at in closing a facility. I'm here to tell you that closing a facility sometimes can be a knee-jerk reaction, my personal opinion. I'm not saying that you're making a knee-jerk reaction, but we closed Coronado last year. The budget prior to closure and the budget after closure didn't change, and you got a full school. Somebody made some comments last week that this is only going to save about $6 million. Well, $6 million is a lot of money, but I think you're going to end up paying about $6 million in infrastructure repair, caretaking, plus the investment of a lot of different school buses and busing people to where they need to go. I'm going to ask in my last 30 or 40 seconds, 70 seconds, that you reconsider, develop a process, and discontinue the thought of closing facilities and take a year to actually analyze each facility and what is the best action. The knee-jerk reaction is you're not building an airplane while you're flying, you're blowing bubbles into a submarine trying to keep it from sinking further, but you're not plugging the holes. Using that analogy. Please take a look and find out what it is you're actually spending money on, where you can save money, and what schools would be most effective to maintain our education system for our students. I want to end with this one. I've never had an educator teach me anything, but I've had some very, very stubborn teachers that have taught me a lifetime of education. Thank you very much for your time, and I really appreciate all you're doing.
Thank you, Mayor Maxwell. All right, next up is Melissa Gonzalez, and on deck will be Yuli Judkins.
Good morning. I'm here today as a concerned parent whose child currently attends one of the campuses listed for possible closure within the Judson Independent School District. I respectfully ask that you consider the full impact these decisions will have on our students, families, and community. Many of our campuses are already operating at a near capacity. Consolidating schools will increase classroom sizes and strain teacher-to-student ratios. When classrooms are overcrowded, students lose access to the individualized support they need. Judson ISD is already facing academic challenges, and increasing class sizes will not improve outcomes. If anything, it risks widening the gaps and placing additional pressure on teachers and staff. This decision will also place significant stress on families. Many of us live in low-income areas, already balancing demand for work schedules. Redistricting may require longer commutes, adjustment to work hours, and additional childcare costs if pickup times change. Transportation remains unclear. Will buses be available? What will routes look like? Communication has been limited, and families are left with more questions than answers. There is also a concern about transparency. With ongoing district leadership changes and financial discussions happening simultaneously, families deserve clear communication about the district's fiscal position and how these closure decisions align with it. Last year, a bond was passed, and many parents still have questions about how these funds were allocated, particularly at campuses now being considered for closure. Most importantly, we must talk about the emotional and social impact on students. My child's campus has already discussed potential closure with students and has already created visible anxiety. At this age, changing schools, losing friendships, adjusting to new teachers, and navigating social environments is overwhelming. For students with IEPs or specialized services, the transition becomes even more complex. Our children cannot fully advocate for themselves in decisions like this. Many do not understand what is happening behind the scenes. As parents and as a community, it is our responsibility to speak up, to ask questions, and to vote in ways that protect their future. We must ensure that every decision made today supports their development into confident, capable adults tomorrow. I will admit that I was hesitant when moving into this district. However, my husband and his family were raised here, and there is an undeniable pride in this community. I see it at football games with alumni who still show up decades later. I sit in neighborhoods proudly displaying Judson Rocket signs. There is a legacy and tradition here, and I believe our students deserve decisions that honor that legacy. I urge the district to slow this process, increase transparency, and prioritize students over short-term financial fixes. Our children are not line items on a budget. They are the future of this community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Gonzalez. Okay, next up is Yuli Judkins, and on deck will be Lori Lerma.
Good morning, Madam President and trustees. My name is Uli Judkins, and I'm a member of this community. I had kids going to the schools. Judson ISD stands at an important crossroads. School choice is here. Families now have options. They can choose charter schools, private schools, and specialized programs. This means districts, including Judson, must actively attract and retain students. The question is no longer simply where students live. The question is, why should families choose Judson ISD? I experienced this transformation personally. As a teenager, I moved from East Germany, where all students attended a centralized system, to Frankfurt am Main in West Germany. Their public schools competed for students by offering specialized programs, language immersion, French, science pathways, and college preparatory tracks. Families chose schools based on opportunity and fit. This created stronger schools and better outcomes. Judson ISD already offers valuable programs, including Spanish immersion, STEM, culinary arts, and career and technical education programs that prepare students for real careers. These are our powerful assets. But today, it is not enough to simply have these programs. Families actually must know about them. These opportunities should be clearly promoted on district websites, which it does, in local news outlets, maybe, on social media, possibly, and on local billboards. So families, home buyers, and real estate professionals understand the strengths of Judson ISD. I also want to acknowledge something deeply important. Schools are not just buildings, they are communities. There are places where children feel safe, where parents build relationships, and where teachers create lasting trust. Some of the schools being closed are academically strong and deeply valued by their neighborhoods. Closing older facilities should not mean losing those communities. Successful programs, dedicated teachers, and strong school cultures can be transferred and strengthened in modern schools with better infrastructure, better technology, and greater opportunity. This is not simply a moment of reduction. This is a moment of redesign. By strengthening programs, promoting existing opportunities, and carrying forward strong school communities, Judson ISD can define its future and become a district families actively choose. Families will accept change when they see that what they value is not being erased, but strengthened. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mrs. Judkins. Okay, next up is Ms. Lori Lerma, and on deck is Mr. Scott Willis.
Good morning, board members. I stand before you once again to urge you to keep Judson Middle School open, not just as a building, but as a thriving campus that supports hundreds of students, families, and staff. Currently, over 70% of our students are walkers or bus riders. Closing this campus would significantly increase transportation demands and costs for the district. Students from neighborhoods like Miramar and Copperfield would require entirely new bus routes, as none currently exist, leading to longer ride times and greater logistical coordination. We know transportation is not just a budget line item. It directly impacts attendance, student safety, family schedules, and academic success. Additionally, Judson Middle School is already equipped to handle additional students without placing further strains on families through transportation challenges, something other campuses may not be positioned to accommodate. Keeping students closer to their community supports consistency, accessibility, and stronger family engagement. We must also consider prior district decisions. The STEM program was relocated to Kitty Hawk Middle School to help offset the loss of students reassigned to Cibolo Middle School. Yet, even after those shifts, Judson Middle School still serves over 750 students. Without that move, Kitty Hawk would likely be operating at half capacity. That reality demonstrates that Judson Middle School is not underutilized. It is actually essential. Given this, the district should strongly consider returning the STEM program to Judson Middle School, where it already had a home and has originally been positioned to serve students and strengthen enrollment. Bringing it back would support campus utilization, reduce unnecessary student displacement, restore stability for students and families, and reinforce Judson Middle School as a vibrant academic hub it has always been. At our last Growth and Planning Committee, we heard that one elementary school was removed from the consolidation list because of transportation costs that was not effective. My question is simple. Why does that same standard not apply here? Why was a cost analysis conducted for that scenario and not consistently across all scenarios, including Judson Middle School? Additionally, it is asked whether this board would receive that data necessary to make such a difficult decision. Has that analysis been provided to you? If so, the committee has not seen it, and that raises an important concern. Why form a committee if our input is not being fully informed or utilized? Effective governance depends on transparency, consistency, and trust. The decision is about more than numbers. It's about stability for our students, predictability for our families, and thoughtful management of district resources. Judson Middle School is not a problem to be solved. It is a community to be protected. I also encourage the board to consider pausing school closures altogether and truly exploring thoughtful consolidation strategies, including the implementation of K-8 programs similar to those adopted by neighboring districts that have successfully consolidated schools while maintaining strong student outcomes. Innovative solutions like this deserve careful evaluation before decisions with long-term impacts are finalized. I ask that you pause this process for all school closures or consolidations, just as you have for elementary schools, to ensure that all data is shared, the same financial standards are applied to across every scenario, and the committee you assembled is fully leveraged to help guide this process. Most importantly, I ask that you keep Judson Middle School open for the students who rely on it every single day. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Lerma. Okay, next up is Mr. Scott Willis, and on deck is Mr. Nestor Cabrera.
Well, good morning on this early Saturday morning. Thank you all for being here. We're $35 million in debt. You're worried about school closures? That's maybe $6 million of this. 16%. Do you think these programs are going to change when we start cutting the other $30 million out of this? I will say what I said at Growth and Planning. Your community is not the bricks and mortar. It's the people, it's the students, it's the teachers. The people, the students, and the teachers are what make those communities and what makes them strong. It's not the place that they go. You think that you're going to have these other programs going on if we don't close schools, even though it's only 15% of what we're missing? That's incorrect. I'm hearing other false statements here. Class sizes shouldn't change unless the board decides to change the class ratios. There's one teacher per X number of students is what the district adopts. We have enough teachers to meet those criteria right now. We're just talking about moving teachers in classrooms to fewer numbers of schools. I want to urge the board to quit with the distractions, which is most of what's on today's agenda, from one side to the other. I'm not picking sides here, but I'm saying this is a huge distraction from the gorilla that's in the room that I keep talking about. It's $35 million. How do you think your students are going to do when we're $35 million in the hole and we don't cut any schools and we hem and haw and wring our hands and go, oh, I can't do this, I can't do that? Somebody's going to be upset, and I'm so sorry for that. I really am. I'm really sorry for people that feel that they're losing their community. Go build a new, better one at another place, at another school up the block or a few miles down the road. I know that this is a long, traditional school district. I'm a military brat. I've been to both schools and places in the middle. I've been in some of the finest public schools in the entire United States, and I've also been court-ordered bused to some of the worst school districts and schools in the entire United States. Your kids will survive and make do, and you're there, and the teachers that you love will be there, and you will make your new community, you'll make it better, and realize the kids transition anyway. They go from elementary school to middle school to high school. In lots of other communities, they do K through 3, 4 through 6, and then 7 through 8. They make these transitions all the time. It's part of growing and the kids learning to be independent. We're just pushing this off on them a little bit more, but the kids pick up on the anxiety that you have and that the teachers have, and that's where that drives in. We need to address our budget woes and do it now. Please, enough with the distractions, enough with the hand-wringing. Somebody's going to have their feelings hurt. Somebody's going to have a hard time, and my heart goes out to you, especially people that have kids that are going on. So please, close the schools and let's work on the budget. There's no more time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Willis. Okay, next up is Mr. Nestor Cabrera.
Hello, everybody. I'm a student at STEM Academy, and I'm here to present why STEM Academy at Gillyhawk is irreplaceable. When my family moves to San Antonio, we weren't just looking for a new zip code. We were looking for a community where I, as a student, could belong and excel. We found that at STEM Academy, which I came to see as the golden standard of public education can be, a place where stress is moved was replaced by excitement and innovation. To hear discussion of closing or scaling back such a vital program is heartbreaking, not just for me, but many of my fellow classmates. STEM is not just a school for us, it's a proven success a story that deserves protection, not retraction. Our love for STEM is rooted in the incredible results it produces. This is not just a feeling, it is backed by economy-consistent records of excellence. STEM students has been recognized on major stages, recently winning the first place at the Mayor's Cup as a Smart Challenges for their work on citywide public pantries. The Academy is also a home for elite educators, including Ms. Watkins, who was named a Department of Defense STEM ambassador for her commitment for student resources. In conclusion, we should join STEM because we believe it's a promise. We love this school because it turns those promises to reality for us. We are asking to stand with us and not to close a chapter of success, but to invest in it. And let's keep the doors of STEM Academy open so that every new family who arrives in San Antonio can find the same hope and home that we did. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Mr. Cabrera. Okay, that wraps up our public comment. One note, thank you to everyone who emailed us. We got a lot of emails. And I know I appreciate that because that gives me time to read them all. I've read them all, and I know I've replied to most of them, so a few of you didn't, but I think the rest of our board has gotten that, so we appreciate those who have taken the time to email us also, who might not be able to make it on a Saturday. Also, I forgot to make a note at the beginning, the decision on any school consolidations is not being made today. There's no action on the agenda for that. So those who spoke, you are always welcome to stay all day with us. You can stay and listen to the presentation and our discussion, and you can sneak out. You can always watch at home, so whatever is most convenient to your schedule today. The decision on this will not be made until Monday for the middle schools, and then on a future agenda for the elementary schools. So if people had other places to go, you're welcome to stay or you're welcome to go, your choice. So, all right, so now we have the next item on the agenda, we have two consent items that needed different signatures, names on those. So did anyone need to pull anything off consent? Oops, sorry. Don't vote yet. Sorry, I hit the wrong button. Anything pulled from consent? Okay, can I get a motion on the consent agenda then? All right, well, I move that we approve the consent agenda items 3A and 3B. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, motion by Ms. Ryan, second by Ms. Canoyer. All right, now you can vote. Sorry. I went too fast on the buttons. Okay, motion passes 6-0. All right, let me process that. Okay, then we will move on to discussion items reports, specifically for A and 4B concerning Kitty Hawk Middle School and Judson Middle School. So I will turn it over to Dr. Toppin for a brief presentation on that, and then we'll move to board discussion. So go ahead, Dr. Toppin.
I'd like to say good morning to everyone and happy Valentine's Day. We have been discussing Judson Middle School and any middle school closure. We've been talking about school closures for quite some time. This has been a discussion that we've had to have because we have seen the impact on our district with school of choice, with the influx that we have had of charter schools and private schools. And the state has not made it any easier for us. They've actually made it easier for parents to have more choice. And so this is where we are today. And so I just kind of want to share a few facts about Judson Middle School as well as Kitty Hawk Middle School in our district. As you can see here in front of you, that I did want to provide some little background about where these schools are and how they've been in our district. for quite some time. Both of them have a strong base of family memories and structures and the way that our community feels about both of these schools. They've been part of what we call Judson proper, what Judson started back in the day. So Kitty Hawk Middle School was built in 1976. It's always been a middle school in our district. They have added 8 additional buildings over the years. They started back in the 1970s up until the time that we are in right now. They've added building after building. So this is that particular school, the way it is structured, the way schools used to be structured back in the day when you had the spread out of all the different buildings, and we've kind of kept that concept at that particular campus. There has been extensive demolitions and renovations to that campus. To keep up with the growth of that area. It continues to have new subdivisions that come into that particular area in that part of our district. When we had our facilities assessment, and this is a piece of evidence that is in data that is provided to our district and to our board, talking about what are considered priority 1, priority 2, priority 3, when you're looking at what needs to be done to the campus to continue to use that campus as a school in our district. So priority 1 is what our assessment, which was RVK and Corrigan, came back to us after they assessed all the facilities in our district. And priority 1 was what they figured has to be done immediately. Priority 2 is what can be done in 3 to 5 years. And priority 3 is what can be done after the 5-year mark to continue to use that particular facility as a school. The total amount of the cost of Kitty Hawk Middle School to continue to use that building and repair all the things that need to be done came out to a ticket cost of $45.2 million for Kitty Hawk. The utilization of the building right now is 49%, and that does include the addition of JSTEM to that particular school to continue to use it, and based on what it could hold versus what it is actually being used for right now, we're at 49% utilization. Judson Middle School was built in 1986. It was originally part of what we call back in the day the red and the gray campus in Judson ISD. When we decided to demolish the red campus and rebuild Judson High School, that particular campus was repurposed at that time as a middle school. And so a high school became a middle school at Judson Middle. They have added additional buildings, but all of those additions were added in the 1980s to kind of build out and continue to use, because at one point, Judson High School with the red and gray campus was over 5,000 kids. If you've been in this district for any length of time, you remember those days when we had 5,000 students at Judson High School. And between the two buildings, so you had the 9th and the 10th grade at the gray campus, and you had the 11th and 12th grade at the red campus. However, when the district decided to rebuild Judson High School, they built it so it could house a number of students. I think it's around about, and Mr. Brooks can correct me, I think it's around about 2,400 kids that can go to that school now. And then we just used Judson Middle School at the time in order for the building not to stand empty, to use it as a middle school. There has not been, since the 80s, any demolitions or renovations at Judson Middle School, other than us putting in the air conditioning, the HVAC unit, that we decided to go through and put at all of our schools that were missing HVAC in the gym to repurpose those, and that was part of our bond from 2022. The facilities assessment that came in from the assessment that was done came up to a ticket cost of $70.5 million to bring Judson Middle School up to the point where it can continue to be used as a school in our district. And then we're at 35% utilization, and I heard someone on this evening, and you are correct, removing JSTEM and putting it at Kitty Hawk to replace the close to 700 kids that were moved to Cibolo Creek when that school opened, did drop the utilization of Judson Middle School at that particular time. Right now, the feeder patterns that we have for these two middle schools, Crestview and Salinas both feed into Kitty Hawk Middle School, and they go from Kitty Hawk and then they feed into Veterans High School. Judson Middle School has Converse Elementary, Copperfield Elementary, and Millers Point Elementary feeding into it, and those particular students end up at Judson High School. When we talk about career and tech, and I did hear some of our speakers today talk about the fact that what are we offering to our students at these particular schools that is setting them up for beyond high school. What are you going to do post-secondary? Whether that means you're going to go into the workforce, the military, or you're going to go into a job or some type of experience or a two-year college. Where are we setting our kids up? What is the pathways that we are building for our students, which is an extremely important part of what Judson ISD does. At Kitty Hawk Middle School, you see the different CTE, what we call our career tech programs that we offer at Kitty Hawk Middle School. I did want to highlight the programs that are offered at both campuses. JSTEM, in addition to that, JSTEM also offers things that are particular to that particular program, their project-based learning program that they have, and also the fact that it's dealing with science, technology, engineering, and mathematics at JSTEM. At Judson Middle School, it is the feeder to Judson High School, where we have an extensive, broad, very award-winning agricultural program. And so that has to be taken into consideration when you're talking about consolidating campuses. We do not want to kill the pathway that we have going straight to Judson High School for the students that are interested in agriculture, food, and natural resources, because that is an extremely important part in one of our premier CTE programs at Judson High School. The electives are pretty much the same at both of the high schools. Both of the middle schools, both of the middle schools leading to the programs that we have at our high schools. LOTC was not a program that was put into place at Kitty Hawk Middle School this year, even though it was on the list of electives that could be offered. That is our leadership officer training corps that we did have at all of our middle schools, but there was not a deep enough interest at Kitty Hawk Middle School. There is a strong interest of it at Judson Middle School. One of the things that we continue to try to do is continue to add electives to our middle schools to prepare our students for what they're getting ready to go into at the high school level. So this year at both middle schools, we have proposed to add color guard, which is a big part of our band program at the high school, to get students into that program and see if we can continue to build the number of students that are going into our color guard program, and then continuing that even at the college level once they graduate from high school. So that is a pattern, that is a course and an elective that we are adding on both sides of the feeder pattern. Now, I do want to show that what we have from our demographer, which is Zonda, what they have proposed, where the numbers will go if we take what we call offline. If you take Kitty Hawk Middle School offline, that means if you decide to consolidate Kitty Hawk Middle School, this is what we're looking at as far as what the numbers are going to look like at the campuses that are going to be receiving the students that are going to come from the Kitty Hawk consolidation. You will see that Judson, Cibolo Creek is still staying around 774 where they are right now. They're still at a 67% utilization based on what they can hold on their campus. However, we also know that around that neighborhood, or in that area, we are continuing to see houses go up. We're continuing to see apartment complexes go up. So we are going to see that continue to grow. Judson Middle School will be sitting at, between 6th and 8th grade, will be sitting at 1,361 kids. Kirby Middle School will be at 727. Metzger Middle School will be at 1,080. And Woodlake Hills will be at 812. And these are using what we call our maximum capacity. And this is what our demographer has provided to us as far as how the overall number of students that will be on those campuses if Kitty Hawk is consolidated. This is a picture of the map that they're talking about, that if we consolidate Kitty Hawk Middle School, then this is where the green is where the boundaries are right now. Am I right? Mr. Brooks, thank you. The green is where the boundaries are right now for Kitty Hawk Middle School. And then the shaded in color here is where the new boundaries will be for the schools that would be, for the kids that would be feeding into Judson Middle School and our surrounding middle schools if we decide to consolidate Kitty Hawk. Our Judson Middle School offline. So this is if we decide to take Judson Middle School and consolidate Judson Middle School. This is where our capacities will be. We will stay pretty much about the same at Cibolo Creek because, as I said, it's a new campus and it's still growing. Kirby Middle School will be sitting around about 727. Kitty Hawk would now move to 1,103 students. Metzger would stay about the same, 1,080, and Woodlake Hills will be 1,070. And then the green, remember, is where the boundary lines are right now. And this will be where the new Kitty Hawk would feed into. If you look right at the top right there, there's Kitty Hawk. This will be the shaded area is all the neighborhoods in that area will be going into Kitty Hawk. Now, I will say that we have had Zonda draw up very different scenarios and looking at what is the best. We still will have to go back and negotiate based on streets, exactly where families are located in both scenarios, whether we consolidate Judson Middle, whether we consolidate Kitty Hawk. You still have to go back and look at streets right now and decide, okay, will the students go here? Are they closer to this? Are they closer to this middle school? Are they closer to the other middle school? But basically what we're looking at right now is where the boundaries were and where the shaded area will be if you decide to consolidate either one of those campuses. Future steps. I heard someone mention today, there is a lot of work that still has to be done after you make a decision to consolidate. We still have to draw the boundaries based on address. We're drawing boundaries now based on what is the feeder pattern to that particular school, but we have to go back and have Zonda tweak it to make sure that we put the kids in the best situation. Someone was talking about transportation. Where do we put the kids on the bus at what particular location to make sure that they are going to the best middle school for where they are living at currently? We still have to schedule courses and get kids into the schedule for the next school year. This particular process usually starts in October. We're sitting in February right now where we have to deal with the master schedules, we have to build the courses, we have to build the registration times and all of that for next school year, which we are projected to start in August. We have already conducted campus tours for kids for their feeder pattern going from 5th grade to 6th grade, from 8th grade to 9th grade. We were going to have to repeat those again because we haven't still not made a decision about consolidation. So the plan is if we decide where we're going to consolidate, we're going to have to conduct campus tours so parents and students can get a look at where they're going to be going, where is it located, what type of programs that are offered at that particular school for the incoming 6th graders and the outgoing 8th graders, because it might change, your high school may change based on where we decide to consolidate those campuses. We also have to look at programs. I already mentioned this, that the ag program is very singular to Judson Middle School, so we have to consider if we're going to consolidate Judson Middle, we need to be able to say how we're going to repurpose and do the ag program. If we decided to keep Kitty Hawk, we cannot get rid of that program. It feeds directly to what we have going on at Judson High School. We're going to have to reevaluate school of choice, whichever campus that you decide. Right now, once we start the registration process and once we have decided on consolidated schools, every student will revert back to their home campus. That means that no matter where you've been for school of choice, when you decide to consolidate a campus, it reverts all school of choice students that are Judson students, but you're choosing to go to a different school, but outside of your home school that you are zoned to, you revert back to your zoned school, and then you have to reapply for school of choice. It also will make a difference of whether or not that campus has enough room to receive you in the school of choice. We also have to start developing a plan for campus reutilization. What is going to happen to the campus if we decide to consolidate that campus? What is that campus going to be repurposed for? Again, I heard someone mention about transportation. Transportation is waiting on us because they are ready to build routes. They are ready to figure out how much those routes are going to cost. They want to know as quickly as they can because we have to inform our families where they're going to be and what type of bus routes are going to change and all of those things. And then again, I have to keep saying master schedule, master schedule, master schedule. We are talking about middle school kids. They have to be scheduled. You don't have, elementary is a little bit different because you have one teacher with 20, 22, 23 kids and they keep those kids all year. Middle school is not like that. You have changes at semester. You have changes throughout the year. We have to put the kids into a schedule to make sure we have enough teachers to teach the students for all the core classes as well as all of the elective classes. So the sooner we can make a decision, the sooner we can start building the schedule for next year. There is a lot of work to be done. A lot of work to be done, a lot of situations that we need to talk to. We're going to have to talk to every family. We're going to have to hold family forums. We're going to have to hold school forums because we want to be transparent about this process. And the sooner we can get in front of our families and get in front of our stakeholders and let them know what the decision is going to be, the sooner we can start having those informative meetings to make sure that we are informing parents what their choices are and what they can do and what we are going to do to make sure that this transition, I have a 23-year-old and I have a 21-year-old, transitioning between 5th and 6th and 8th and 9th is something that all by itself. And if you're a parent that's dealing with that, you understand what I'm saying, or if you've had to deal with it. We have got to make sure that we are equipping our schools and our students and our parents so their students can be set up for success wherever they may end up. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Toppin, and thanks to the staff that helped, put that together. I think the way we did this at the last meeting worked pretty well in terms of, do any board members have kind of factual data questions kind of first, and then I'll go up and down the line to kind of then hear everybody's thoughts as part of the discussion. So anything from what Dr. Toppin presented that you had a question about, any data, money, numbers, or anything like that? Go ahead, Mr. Macias.
Dr. Toppin?
Yes, sir.
Are you able to confirm what the projected dollar savings would be per middle school? There's, I think, 2.4 or 2.2. Was that the official figure of what the savings would be per middle school? What was it?
I'm going to let Ms. Davis speak to that because what we did was look at what Mo Casey provided to us as far as what projected savings would be if we were not utilizing that particular site as a school.
2.5.
2.5 million.
2.5 is the, and that was obviously not going through the entire process, right, with other costs like transportation
and personnel and all of that.
Such.
Yeah. Yes.
It does include some personnel in that cost already, and it includes about 500,000 of possible costs, such as transportation routes. So there is added.
There's a projected number in that.
Yeah.
We just got to finalize.
But again, once we get the boundaries drawn, you would definitely have to come back and look at those numbers again. But we did project a cost based on what we know right now.
Okay, and the utilization was brought forward, that we had a 35% utilization at Judson Middle School and 49% over at Kitty Hawk. I couldn't help but notice how low Kirby was. And so I wanted to know what the utilization there was for Kirby, because that'd go back to rationale in terms of if we're using data to make decisions, but we're deciding to take one over another. So what's the utilization rate over at Kirby?
Kirby's utilization rate is 50%.
Okay. Now, for factual and for the comment for the community, in December of '24, we sat on this board and we discussed the fact that middle school was our weakest area academically. We had a lot of challenges with student success there that we needed to hit. We knew that, right? 7th grade math and so forth. We also said the way to do that is by having smaller campuses so that we could address it. Now, there had to be some additional strategy to that, but the idea was that we would have smaller campuses to address those academic issues. So if we're sitting with 50% or 49% that plays into the opportunity. And that's what I think is the silver lining. We have an opportunity to really address the student need. The other thing that was stated, just for the record, was that Judson Middle School will never be at a higher capacity because it was built to be a high school. And so we're not going to see, 3,000 kids on that campus or whatever that max is for the Gray campus. So we have to take that into consideration. I think also some of the thoughts were that we would use half the resources possibly to put our J-Care campus at Judson Middle School in conjunction with, half, finding a way for that to work. So what I'm trying to say is there are solutions to these problems. I'm concerned about the dollar amount. I don't know if that would ultimately be realized savings in 1 year or if it would take 2 or 3 years. And so it just seems like a lot of things to do without a guarantee on the savings. But we certainly have opportunity to really enhance our academic support of students by keeping campuses controllable in terms of population. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, any other factual questions, data questions from this end? Ms. Jones, no factual questions? And we'll come back to everybody then for your thoughts on it.
I just had one question with Judson Middle School mentioning the agriculture. Where would you be looking at moving that to, or is that something that would extend out to more than one middle school?
The ag program is is the level 1 program. So we're not talking about animals yet or any of those things. It's the level 1 course that they can earn high school credit while they're still in middle school to go into the ag program. So we use it as a launch into the level 2, 3, and 4 programs that are at the high school. The location is going to have to be whichever school we decide to consolidate. That's where the program is going to end up at. So if we decide to consolidate Judson Middle, it would have to move to Kitty Hawk because it's closer to where the kids will have to be for the ag program anyway. And so we are looking at the mileage between the two. I know that Dr. Steele is waiting for us to make Dr. Steele, who's over our CTE program for the district, is waiting for us to make a decision because there is some groundwork that would have to be done to make sure that they have everything that they need and transferring all that over to whatever school we decide to go with.
Okay.
I just know that is a program we cannot lose.
All right, any other questions? Ms. Jones?
No, that was all. Thank you.
All right, Ms. Lee, some factual questions? Go ahead.
Same thing, Dr. Tappan. I just want to know how many kids were on that program for that agriculture?
I'm sorry, that is something I would have to get back to the board.
Oh, okay. And then, because I know that a lot of the Judson Middle kids are walkers, I just want to know how much would it be, because when I'm doing my own, research for criteria on considering school closures, because I don't know anything about the transportation yet, I want to know how many kids are walkers so that I can consider it for the bus transportation. I don't know, maybe Mr. Brooks know how many are school bus kids for the transportation.
So if Judson Middle School is the school that's chosen, we would then have to go back to the demographer to do a refinement of the boundaries to determine where students are going to be going, because we're going to have to redistribute students between the three middle schools, Woodlake Hills, Kitty Hawk, and
Metzger, yeah.
And so based on that, once we know where where students are going, then we'll know how many routes and how many additional buses are needed.
Yeah, my question though is it's okay if it's if you can email me, or how many are walkers and how many are in a school bus.
Oh, okay. Yes, we can get back to you on that.
Yes, because I know that once we close, if we consider closing Judson Middle School, if I know the number of walkers, then of course they're going to be forced to have that transportation, and how many school bus, the route or something on Judson Middle School, because I'm pretty sure it's gonna also add up. Because those are the things that I consider, that I want to consider, because I don't want, like the kids have that longer route and stuff. So those are, yes, if you can please give that to me, that I would appreciate it.
Just for clarification, you want to know how many walkers currently at Judson Middle?
Yes, currently on Judson Middle School, and also for Kitty Hawk, so that I could have it on my criteria here.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, that's where I was going to jump in on Kitty Hawk too, because I'm pretty sure all the
Yes,
non-J
'cause I
stemmers
want-
almost all walk to Kitty Hawk, because it's all up and down by your neighborhood, up and down that street from Salinas
Yes,
and
so
stuff. So.
it's something that I also consider, on making a decision, even elementary schools later on, that I want to have that, please. Thank you.
All right, any other questions, Ms. Lee? Nope, okay. Any other questions down on this end? Go ahead, Ms. Canoyer.
So I want to piggyback off of something that Mr. Macias said. My understanding is that $2.5 million is an annualized savings, not just a one-time savings. Is that correct? Because it's talking mostly about salaries? Okay, thank you.
Ms. Stanford, you got questions? Go ahead,
I
ma'am.
do. And I also had the percentage of walkers like Ms. Lee did, so if you could get that to all of us for any school that we're considering, what percentage? Candlewood was 100%, right? Isn't that what I heard?
Yes, they have no bus.
So that's an important part of the picture. So if we need that for every school we're looking at. And then on the 2.5 annualized savings, is that a gross or a net? Because we're going to save money, but we're going to incur charge too. So the transportation is going to take away from that savings, correct?
Yes, ma'am, but about 500,000 is included for non-personnel costs. So the personnel costs are included within that Mo Casey campus consolidation review for elementary and middle school. It includes the cost of personnel, and it includes an estimated savings range of about an additional $500,000 for transportation.
So you're calculating in an estimate, make sure I understand you, you're calculating an estimate of 500,000 cost for transportation?
Yes,
So
ma'am.
that's calculated in that 2.5, so
In
that's
that-
kind of a net then?
Yes, ma'am,
Okay,
by Mo Casey.
right. I had asked, and if we don't have it available now, I was curious to know what kind of savings we're experiencing on Coronado now that we have one school that's been closed for a year.
Well, remember that even though we closed Coronado, that campus moved over to Selma.
Right.
So, in essence, there has been no savings.
Well,
It saved expense of a new school.
okay.
It saved duplicating administration at the new school, Selma and Coronado.
Isn't that considered an ongoing savings then? Those are salaries we don't have at that campus?
We didn't bring on additional costs because we closed one school and opened another.
Okay.
So we netted.
If we hadn't done it, we would have gone from 20
Correct.
principal salaries to 21 principal salaries.
That
and
is
21
true.
assistant
Yes.
principals
Would've
to
had more.
20 to 21. So we didn't add all the
We
additional.
didn't add additional
I
costs.
need to come up with a different word other than overhead, because that is not what we mean. I call the one of eaches on a campus, one police officer, one nurse, one counselor, those. We saved all of those costs when we
Yeah. Okay.
stayed at 20.
Now, we have ongoing costs with the school, right? We have some amount of maintenance, some amount of power. Do we know what that's running us? Or can we find out? Because
Yes,
that's going to be
absolutely, we do
something
know.
that we'll experience on any school we close.
Correct.
So now that we have one example to look at that we've had closed for a year, I'm curious to find out
Yes, ma'am.
how that is impacting us now. And are we going to look at the Kirby numbers, or is that, as Mr. Macias asked, or is that off the table?
We would
I
have
know
to
it's-
publish a new agenda for that, ma'am.
Understood, but I
Okay.
said, are we going to? There's no plan to.
Administration is not making that recommendation at this time, so.
Okay. All right, that's all I have.
Mrs. Potteet?
Yeah, I just kind of want to start off saying thank you to the administration. I know that putting together the process of shutting down these schools has been difficult. It is a new process for all of us on the board, and actually having to put this process together, I know could not have been easy. So I just wanted to say thank you to the administration again. But really, my main question would be, you were discussing what the amounts were going to be to kind of fix up the schools, and JMS was sitting at 70 million. How much of that is like immediate need? And then the same question for Kitty Hawk as well.
Yes. Priority one for Kitty Hawk Middle School is $33.6 million. Priority one, and this is immediate need that they have deemed as necessary. So $33.6 million for Kitty Hawk and $54 million for Judson Middle School.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I think the couple questions I had, just back on the cost savings too, I just want to share from Dr. Gibson, when they did their calculations, they counted, again, the one of eaches, one principal, one assistant principal and stuff at campuses. The cost that Mo Casey said they weren't able to deduce for us was the staffing portion. So as you start to consolidate, you may have a choir teacher serving 60 students at one middle school, a choir teacher servicing 60 students at the other. Once you consolidate, then you don't need two choir teachers. That one choir teacher is able to service those kids throughout the day. And same with middle school basic classes. We may have only 16 kids sitting in some classes. So, but that's a much more difficult number to calculate until you actually staff the schools and see what the staffing cost was before and what the total staffing cost was in the future, or will be under each
There is a
scenario.
staffing model that we use, is a basic staffing model that we use for every level, one for elementary, one for middle school, and one for high school. And we use that staffing model to begin how we're going to allocate staff to each campus. And so that is utilized, and we go from that to determine, but it's also dependent upon, when you're talking about secondary, it's dependent on how many kids request the course on their course selection sheets when they're preparing for the next school year. So as a principal, you have to take those course selection sheets, you have to see how many students have requested that course, and then you build your master schedule. That's why it's so important to get started early. You build your master schedule based on the number of students that have requested it. And as a model that we have done, or as a rule that we have had in secondary, is that you have to have a minimum of 15 students requesting it to even consider the course to include it on the master schedule. And so you can say that you only have 60 kids here and 60 kids there, but in reality, it's going to be where the kids are going to move to. Then you can determine whether or not you're going to need however many teachers to teach that course, because teachers only have a certain amount of classes that are allocated to them, because they have to have their one period off for their conference period, or what we call their prep and planning period, and then it leaves an X amount of courses, X amount of sections that they have to teach each day. So each teacher is allocated 7 sections a day with one prep and planning period, otherwise known as their conference period, at the middle school level. So you take the total number of kids in a camp, because the goal is not to overcrowd classrooms. That is never the goal, to do that, to make sure we stay within the ratio that we started out with at the beginning of the year, when we're talking about allocating how many teachers and what is the student to teacher ratio.
I think the only other question I had, and I think I emailed it in, but it's kind of a number this week, so if I didn't, I apologize. But do we know what the cost was when we moved JSTEM to Kitty Hawk, because there was a lot of physical infrastructure, technology-wise, plus the whole moving cost? Do we know what that was, and then what the cost will be to now move it to a third location? And you might not, you can get back to us.
I don't have it with
Okay,
me
no
now,
worries.
but
Yes,
it's
you can
easily,
follow
I
up
can get
with an
that
email
from the
on that
facilities and
cost,
planning team.
because those
Yes, ma'am.
students just moved once, and now this will be another move on them.
Yes,
So,
ma'am.
Okay, those are all the factual questions I had. So, again, where we're at, the board already approved to close one middle school for fall. So I guess let's go up and down the line and just hear y'all's thoughts on the two schools that have been proposed by administration to be one of the one that the board's approved closing. So I think I started that way last time, so I'll start with Mr. Macias. Your thoughts on that?
You started on which way last time? You started on
okay,
my
I
way
can start
again,
on- you
so
want me
we're
to start on
back
the
to me
other
again, so that's fine. But just note, I probably will have a rebuttal after everyone speaks anyway. But my concern again is that, we've said, and the vote was to close the middle school. But again, at the end of the day, we do have the final authority to close no schools. So the recommendation is just a recommendation from administration. But I'm still concerned about the aggressiveness in which we're trying to do to close campuses. Our goal should be to accommodate student need, first and foremost. And if smaller middle school campuses can accomplish that, then we should. The rationale in the community will be, why aren't we closing Kirby as well? If we're really trying to close smaller campuses, we're not, because I want Kirby to stay open because the students need support there. Same thing with Judson Middle School, same thing with Kitty Hawk. If we have issues with enrollment, let's not say it's underutilized. Let's look for an opportunity to support student success. And I think that's what the difference of approach is. I know we're all taking a lot of heat from the community regarding our budget deficit, but closing campuses is fool's gold in my opinion. You're not going to make a lot of money, or save a lot of money closing schools. It's just not, that's not structured that way. Our costs are in personnel. That is where the issues are. And we've talked about attrition being a pathway forward where we will not hire positions once people leave. We see 15, 20, even 25% attrition every year. Some of those are teachers, we need to hire them back. Some of them are not. So in my opinion, and I've already put it out there on social media and everything, that we will save money through reduced cost and personnel. Some of them, there was a comment about COVID. Those COVID positions also probably won't be coming back, which will be additional savings. So we have a path forward that is going to help us reduce our deficit. By my estimation, we should be able to save almost anywhere from 8 to 10 million in just attrition alone. And then when we sell property, which was also proposed, you're looking at 18.2 million that potentially could be brought back to the district. If we were able to do that, have 8 to 10 million and 18 million, that's 26 to 28 million. That would put us in a position where our deficit would only be $10 million rather than 35. And that's just basically in 1 year without damaging students, because it's going to, right now, closing schools will hurt students and impact our community. So I want to be responsive to our community. There's only 2 people on this board that have been reelected. That's Ms. Knoyer and I. And the reason is because we're responsive to our community. 5 of you have not been, and so you may not understand the importance of listening to your community when they speak. And we've been hearing from our community through emails. Ms. Ryan mentioned earlier, thank you for all the emails. I'm sorry you had to email us. This is ridiculous stuff. But here we are, and the idea is that we're going to close schools, but again, that's not where the real savings is. So there is a path forward once we get down to looking at what positions will be vacated. Heck, there's already 2 positions on cabinet we're probably not going to fill. So that's 200,000 plus already saved on those 2 positions. There is a better way, and I'd like the board to think in a constructive way of how we can support students rather than closing schools and hurting communities. Because I can tell you the other factor is going to be that we're going to lose enrollment because people are going to be dissatisfied with the process. And it was mentioned before, there is serious lack of transparency with this process. And you can't change schools, the same week. You can't do that. So somewhere we do need to regroup. I've stated before, we should only close 1 or 2 schools. That's it. And that's only if the rationale is there. And at this juncture, I can tell you that had my community known in 2022 when we supported the bond for a brand new middle school, knowing now that you're going to hurt the schools in this district that have a higher social economic student, they probably would not have voted for that school. But again, we're trying to support all of our community, and at this juncture, we're here. Let's focus on the higher end dollars, which are personnel, reduce budget that way, not close campuses. The last thing I'll say about this too, we can also be innovative. Smaller campuses don't mean we pay high dollar for positions because there's less students on campuses. We had a model like that several years ago where we're not going to pay the Jesup principal with 500 students the same as a Judson High School principal with 3,000 students. There are differentials that we can create that make sense, and we probably may need to reevaluate that, but we changed that a couple of years ago. Bottom line is there is a path forward, and it does not need to be consolidation.
Okay, before I move on to Ms. Jones, I'm sorry, Dr. Tubman, I forgot to ask at the end of yours, which is what is administration's recommendation between Kitty Hawk and Judson Middle School? Before we weigh in on that. Sorry, last time you had a recommendation, and I forgot to go back to you for it on this one.
Our recommendation is just looking at what we would have to do to continue to keep both schools going, is that we close Judson Middle. That is our recommendation. If we have to choose between the two, Judson Middle is the choice that we would make.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Toppin. I know for all of us, taking positions on these things are very, very difficult decisions, but at some point, we all have to make recommendations and make decisions, so I appreciate that, Dr. Toppin. All right, Ms. Jones.
So I feel to make a informed decision on which one, we really need to know the additional costs that Mr. Brooks was going to bring back, such as the walkers or the bus riders, and what that added transportation cost would be. And also, if we were to have to move J-STEM, what that cost would be, since that wouldn't be an actual savings, that would be something we would have to be paying. I know that hearing from the community, we have a lot of the comments are we have gotten to this place because we did not listen to administration. So at this point, it's very hard to go against the recommendations of administration when so much of the community is saying we've gotten here because the board has not listened to what administration has told us we needed to do. With being recently elected, I understand there are people who have been reelected from their community, but we were also elected by our community because we were listening to them. And we are trying to do the best for our community members. There have been lots of emails. We have listened to you, but difficult decisions do have to be made. And I don't feel at this point where we are in the budget that we need to go against what our experts are telling us we need to do what's right for the district and the students and the employees. So I would like to have additional information on those cost savings before I say one way or the other, but I do feel we need to continue on with administration's recommendation to go ahead and consolidate the one middle school.
Ms. Lee.
Yes, I just actually want to say thank you for the community, for having me. I was invited to actually listen to Woodlake Elementary yesterday, and of course at Metzger also. I'm just gonna piggyback on Ms. Jones. I believe that we are also elected because we also listen to the community and they want change. That change is to be fiscally responsibility, and I remember that's one of my, that I campaign on. So if the recommendation of the administration and the experts are saying that we really have to close one middle school, then I would really vote for that, to close a middle school. But yeah, I still need the additional, information that I have asked, just to maybe justify my vote in the criteria that I have here. And, yeah, that's it. Thank you.
All right, Ms. Canoyer?
I've clearly been on record that I don't want to close schools. I've clearly been on record that every student is important and the voices of our community is important. But we're in a situation now where we can't just look at the storied traditions of Judson ISD, because the world is changing and we have to change with it. The political landscape has definitely had an impact on public education, and I've been very clear about how I vote and that I'm a single issue voter, and it's, do you support public education or not? And I wish more people had that same kind of attitude when they vote. But here we are. We have a huge budget deficit to make up. $2.5 million annually is an important part of making up that deficit. When I look at all the factors that are out there, currently I am leaning towards Judson Middle School as the school to be closed following our superintendent's recommendation. But I will say my mind is still open based on this new information that may come, the new facts that you're giving out. But that's currently where I am leaning. I honestly believe that closing Kitty Hawk may put more of a strain on families whose students would have to travel further for education, simply because of our geography. Our geography is not helpful. We're not this nice little square, we're going to have a school here, school here, school here, school here. That just, we're this long, skinny thing. And that makes everything more challenging, particularly with transportation. So currently, as I said, I am leaning towards Judson Middle School as the school to vote on to close. But I am open to hearing what the data says.
Thank you, Ms. Canoyer. Ms. Stanford?
Yeah, I don't want to close any schools either. And the pain of it is something we feel every day as we're looking at the data and reading your emails and responding to your emails. Looking at the bigger picture, I can't help but pay attention to the declining growth rates, birth rates, declining enrollment. So those are numbers that we can't ignore. And I would be leaning toward the administration's recommendations to help write the budget and make things as equitable as possible. I am concerned about the rush of the process. Information has changed, and that's made some of our community members concerned that maybe we're trying to bite off more than we can chew all at once in a rush to try to do something for the budget deficit. So I am leaning away, just so you know, I'm leaning away from 4 schools. Just looking at the confusion and the back and forth that's happened, I'm not sure we have a good handle on what we're doing. Not because we're not trying to, but because there's so much to take into account. I don't know if we're able to weigh all the factors carefully. I am leaning now toward doing it in 2 pieces. That wasn't my first thought. My first thought was the rip the Band-Aid thing. I don't even like that illusion, but my first thought was maybe do it all at once. I'm not so sure that's the best thing to do anymore, because we, in a rush to do something, if you're going down the wrong road, you don't need to be running down the wrong road. If we go a little more thoughtfully, I don't know why we couldn't do it in 2 steps. Do maybe 2 schools this year, 2 to 3 schools this year, and then look at what we need to do the next year. Because then we'll have more information. We'll have a better handle on the process. So that's where I'm leaning now. Also have been asked by community members about K through 8. I'm starting to get information and requests and inquiries into, could we consider K through 8? Could we? There have been requests from parents to look at that. Do we have time to consider that? We probably have to do something this year, but could we roll that into our considerations and calculations? We have to relocate our police and J-care. What are our plans for that? And I just feel right now that we're rushing so hard to save $1 million on this school and $1 million on that school, that we might find out we're not being careful and thoughtful enough, and there's unintended consequences in that rush to look like we're doing something big and important and save all this money, and I'm not sure we're really going to be accomplishing that. And it doesn't hurt to step back and go a little more slowly and thoughtfully and make sure that we're doing something that will really be effective with the least harm, because the kids are at the very basis of this whole thing. So I would lean toward admin recommendation on the middle school. I'm nervous about middle school impact because that age is so critical, delicate. So I'm very cautious about impacting middle school when that's been a real problem. They need more attention. They need more care, not less. So I'm still in the process of assimilating, and I haven't made a final decision yet. Thank you.
Mrs. Poteet.
So I am leaning towards the administration's recommendation. My concern is also just falling on the repairs that need to be done for Judson Middle. So much of that is critical, and what none of us are really talking about is what happens if one of these critical needs to be fixed next year. We don't have the money to do that. And I don't want to provide anything less than the best that we can provide for all of our students. And right now, I think the best way to do that is to consolidate some of these schools. It's not an easy decision. It's not a decision any of us want to make. But to Mr. Macias's point, when he was saying that, we were just newly elected. We were. And we were running, or at least myself, I was running on the promise of I will make these hard decisions, because these are not easy. These are not going to be popular in the community. This is going to bring vitriol. This is going to bring hate and everything else on Facebook and in the community, and we get it. None of us want to see our schools close. I don't want to see my kids' schools close. I don't want to see your kids' schools close. None of us want this to happen, but this is happening across the state of Texas. This is not unique to Judson. This is not unique to any district in this state. Everybody is having to reduce. Things are changing. Birth rates are going down. You have so many more choices as parents now. We have to move with the times. And I believe what Ms. Stanford was saying in regards to how we're rushing this. Closing schools has been brought up by this board for over 2 years. So I'm not sure why we're saying that this is being rushed, that we haven't had time. This has been on the agenda multiple times. This was on the first agenda I was ever at in May of last year, if we were going to be shutting down schools. So this is not a new thing that's just coming up right now. And again, I do want to apologize to all of the communities that are going to be affected by this. This is not our intention. We are trying to think of the best that we can do for all of our children. All of them, all 23,000 that are in Judson. We are trying to maintain local control here by making these decisions before TEA steps in and makes these decisions for us. We want the best for our community because we are community members. I live down the street. It's like Ms. Jones lives in Kirby. We are part of this community. We feel this. And again, none of these decisions are easy. And I'm not going to say that these decisions have been rushed. We've been hearing about school closures for 2 years. This is not coming out of nowhere. This is not coming out of, oh, we just decided to do this 2 months ago. This is a hard decision. This is the time to make it. Like Mr. Willis keeps on telling us and reminding us at every board meeting, there's a 80 million pound ape or whatever in the middle of the room. We have to work on this deficit, and this is how we start.
Sorry, ma'am, there's no time for comments during this portion of the meeting. So, yeah, that's the one comment I just wrote at the top of my paper was the first meeting I was in on this board about consolidating middle schools and consolidating multiple elementary schools was spring of 2024, almost 2 years ago. And here we are in spring of 2026. And 3 of my colleagues here were here with me in spring of 2024. And if this process has not rolled out the way it should have, then some of that falls on us because we've had 2 years to do this, and we didn't. So I think somebody out in the community had put it best not long ago, which is we've been kicking this can down the road and we're out of road, because that's where we are right now, looking at the finances. And my time machine's broken because I would go back to spring of 2024 and I would have been jumping up and down on this dais to do it differently. And that didn't happen, and this is where we are. You know, the Growth and Planning Committee's been working for 2 years on this, too. They met all of last year, and they met all of this year, and can't thank them enough for their input. The Finance Committee meeting constantly before Christmas with their input. All of the stakeholders who are reaching out to us, email, phone calls, grabbing us in hallways at schools all the time. And then the staff. There has been an exorbitant amount of data in the last 2 years on this, right? So I've been watching all the data as we've gone through. And this is just the inevitable part of a declining district, is that consolidation is necessary. And of course, I've got a huge network across the state, and so many of my board president colleagues have gone through this in their districts, right? And all of them have gone through it. When everybody comes back to school in fall, there are more opportunities and more resources available to students than there were before they had to make that decision. And everybody comes back, and exactly what Mr. Willis says is people start building new communities. And we build that every year. JSTEM, we pull children from 20 different elementary schools every single fall, and all those 6th graders roll into JSTEM camp before school starts, and they form a new community. We moved 750 students to Cibolo Creek this year, right? All of those kids had to leave where they were and go up to a new school. And they're on a bus a long time, by the way, because that's a long drive up there, right? This is not something new. We moved a lot of boundaries last year. Kids got new high schools last year. Kids got new middle schools last year. Kids got new elementary schools last year. And so I think also what Mr. Willis says is, yeah, kids are highly resilient, and they will play off adult anxiety. But if we make them feel okay that they are going to be loved and taken care of, no matter where the bus drops them off every day, then they will feel confident in where they are going. And let's not let adult discomfort rub off on our kids. And I think I said this last meeting, there's a limit. We have $1 can go here or $1 can go here. And if I have to choose where to put $1, I'm always going to put that $1 on our human capital. I'm always going to put it on our staff and our teachers, because that's where the magic is. The magic is not in the bricks. And the staff who understand that, they're going to stay, because they were meant to teach and meant to support Judson babies, and it doesn't matter where their classroom is. And I want them in the best facilities we can. And again, my own children have attended both of these schools that we're talking about today, right? And I had to vote to move my child from one school to another last year. And so some of us are living this every single day in real life also. And so looking at all of the data and the types of facilities we can provide for our students and those opportunities, I'm also leaning towards supporting administration's recommendation on this. Look forward to seeing some of the other data that you guys will provide too. But everything from the last 2 years talking about this, I agree that that's unfortunately probably the right recommendation. And I have confidence that administration is going to get our students and staff through this. I know that was a big to-do list, but I also know everyone's kind of seen this coming and is literally just poised to go take care of everybody. So that's where I'm kind of at on that. Any additional discussion before, and again, on Monday, we'll have another opportunity to discuss, and then take action on this. Go ahead, Mr. Macias.
Yeah, I said I would rebuttal because I definitely wanted to hear what my colleagues had to say, and it appears that they did hear my remarks about being elected. I was also reelected, and I was not reelected for change. I was reelected for common sense, and that's why I'm here. Believe me, there was definitely efforts to kick me out of this office, but I'm here. So common sense approach is what's needed. Do not take into account that we didn't discuss consolidation. Ms. Ryan's correct, we did. But we also knew there were revenue options at the time. Austin could have done the right thing and increased the basic allotment, which means we wouldn't have had this problem. We could have passed a Vader. We wouldn't have had this problem. We're now in this scenario because we tried everything to raise revenue for the district so we wouldn't have to consolidate. Not that we didn't want to. We knew this day might come. And so unfortunately, because of the community's vote on the Vader, because of the lack of representatives in Austin's providing us with resources, we're here now. And we're not unique. I'll tell you, Northside ISD has not closed a single campus, and they're going through the same struggles. I think they're trying to be innovative about reaching student need. But closing schools seems to be the way we're thinking about doing things. I would say that, Ms. Ryan, how many times have you met with administration offline regarding this topic? You've been to their offices, right, with Dr. Toppin?
We had
Yes.
one meeting? Yes.
Well,
Some with Dr. Gosh, and I had a lot of them with Dr. Fields.
I know,
about
which,
this. Okay.
my point is that those meetings sometimes aren't happening in the boardroom. So when you say administrative recommendations, I'm going to just ask, is it also part of Monica Ryan's recommendation in talking with administration? Because we're not having the conversation here. And I know that because when I met with Dr. Fields on this issue, because we all have access to the superintendent, he said 2 to 3 campuses. Now we're changing it to 4. When and where did this happen? And then, of course, it doesn't help when we had 2 elementary schools, Olympia Hills and Woodlake, be removed, and Miller's Point and Worley Meadows be placed. When did that decision come? It certainly didn't happen in the boardroom. So you have to start asking yourself, where is this stuff happening? It's not happening here, and it should be. So the transparency issue is a very real one. Are we being transparent? And so that's going to cause major distrust. Our job as elected officials is to build trust, be responsive to our community, and those things are both lacking right now. I tell you that 100%. So just keep that in mind. The other thing is that we really do need to look at the other options that we have on the table. I will reiterate the fact that we do have other options to save funding that will be greater than just closing campuses. I already know, I spoke with the media yesterday. I already know how the votes are going to line up. I know that the board already has a sense of what they're going to do to close a campus. I'm sorry that you know, we have to go through this process and have students feel anxious, because I've heard students reach out to me feeling anxious about their school being closed. It's not a good time. But again, we have responsibilities, yes, and the community wants us to resolve our deficit issue. But I would also implore to our community.
Mr. Macias, if you could wrap up, we're way over 3 minutes. Sorry,
That's
I didn't
fine.
want to interrupt you. So
That's fine,
if
I
you could just
appreciate
wrap up.
that.
Thank you.
I'll wrap up by saying this. The community needs to support public education. Ultimately, we're one of the lowest taxed rate districts in Bexar County. We just need support to make sure we don't have to close campuses.
Oh, do you want to? Go ahead, Dr. Toppin.
I also want to make sure that I do clarify some things in reference to the change in the data, the changes in the schools that happened over a week. So when we first started down this road, there was meetings held with our demographer prior to me sitting in this seat, and they were given directives on what they were supposed to look like, as far as how we wanted the maps to be drawn, what we were considering as our criteria for moving students around the district if we were closing this, and this, and that. They got that over a week ago, and they met with Dr. Gosh and whatnot. And since then, it's been a change in leadership once again, And so we had to go back to the drawing board, and when we met with them again, they came back to us and gave us very clear feedback that some of the places that we were thinking about should be included in our consolidations were not workable with the demographics, as far as the demographers were concerned about where the boundaries were going to be drawn and how it was going to impact the neighborhoods and the schools from that. I had the entire team sit in and we listened to Zonda go through that, and they were having, in the midst of all of that, and I think that this is very important for us to share, that Bob Templeton has been with us for over 2 years, if I'm not mistaken. That is a demographer that we have been working with for 3 years. He left the company in the middle of all of this transition that we were having. So we started with a new person to start working with Judson. And so with Bob Templeton, with Zonda, we were able to just kind of talk, because he knows our district in and out. He's been doing this for the last 3 years. And so the individual that replaced him is just now learning Judson, just now learning what we're doing, and having to work through several different scenarios. I think the last count that we gave them to consider the consolidations was 16 different scenarios that we needed them to work through to see if they were going to work, as far as where our students were going to end up, what schools that they were going to feed into. So I will take full blame for the changes that were made in between 1 week and to the next, because what we're trying to do is what's best for our community. At the end of the day, we're trying to make sure that we're putting students in the right schools to continue the work that we've already started with a lot of our students, and making sure that we're putting them in buildings that are going to be able to house them, not for 1 year, not for 2 years, for 5 years, for 6 years. Because I don't believe that what we're seeing as far as declining enrollment is going to go away, especially with the vouchers being introduced this year. I think that this is something we're going to have to consider every year from here on out, that we're going to have declining enrollments in certain areas of our district, and we're going to have to respond to that. The other thing that I would like to say is that at the end of the day, I am always more concerned with middle school, because that is where we are hurting as a district. That is the area, the students that are considering, that are really struggling. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that they were the ones that were caught in the grip of COVID at the time and did not have the experience. This year's group, 6th graders, is the last group that did not start school what I call traditionally. And we will see this. This is something we're going to have to keep coming to for the next 6 years until they graduate. And so we will always make sure that we're looking at all factors. I know that, we want to stay on the finance and stay in the quantitative, but we also have to consider the qualitative. And SEL is a bigger issue now than it's ever been. Social emotional learning is a bigger part of what we do in education now, more so than it's ever been since COVID. And so this is not an easy decision for administration to make. It's not an easy suggestion for administration to make for either middle school or elementary, because most of us have been in this district for quite some time. I've been in here for 25 years. I know Kristen has been here for 28. And some of these places that we're talking about are places that we've taught in, and places that our own children, my children, have gone through. And it's not easy for me to explain to my daughter that why Judson Middle is even on there when we spent 3 years at Judson Middle when she was there. And so definitely a lot of conversations with, even in my own household, over the phone and whatnot, because they're trying to understand why. And my husband's not here. I told him, do not come to speak, because he feels some kind of way also about this. And the fact that I'm sitting right here in this chair right now is not, it's pretty tough at home, at work, everywhere. But I do want our community to know, at the core of who I am, at the core of what we are in the district, we're about kids. We're about kids. And I've always been that way. And I've always wanted to make sure that we're doing what's best for students. And sometimes it may not appear that way, but I can speak for myself. You can ask anybody about me. My integrity means a lot to me, and my decision-making means a lot to me, and making sure that we're doing the best for students. Judson was founded on the slogan of students first. It's been part of who we are, as part of the things that we talk about, that we do what's best for kids. And I hope that we keep that in mind as we continue to go forward, because the decisions that we're going to have to make are going to be very hard decisions. But at the end of the day, we have got to protect our children, bottom line. And I know that at the end of the day, that if any principal is worth their salt in this district, and I believe that they are, they're going to make whatever student they have come into their campus feel at home, have a place of belonging. You got 3 of us sitting on this cabinet that have been principals, and we know how important it is that you have to make sure that the students feel like, you know what, when you walk into this place, you're at home. When you come here, you got people that care about you. And at the end of the day, that is the most important thing. We have got to protect our kids' future.
Thank you, Dr. Toppin. And yes, and for those who don't know, in terms of agendas, things changed in September with the legislature. We used to be able to give the superintendent up till 72 hours before the meeting to get the names of the schools and everything on there. That has changed, and now a week out. So when new information comes up, you can't just change the names. We have to cancel a meeting and reschedule it with the proper agenda language. So we are trying to be expeditious, because our community and our staff and our kids do need answers, while also being thorough, and we're doing the best job we can to balance those two things. So it means more meetings and reposting of agendas to make sure we get this right, and we get this right quickly, is why, and I know that is difficult for the community, it's difficult for us too, and it's difficult for everybody to block off a lot of their schedule. I wish the legislature would not have changed maybe some of these posting requirements, give us a little more flexibility, but that's what they chose to do. We will continue to update those meetings to make sure that what is put in front of this board is what administration is recommending, so that we can be taking action and the public can be aware of the decisions that we will be looking at, and when we will be looking at those. Okay, so, go ahead, Ms. Stanford.
I just wanted to say that I didn't say that this is a new topic. I know it's been discussed and considered over the last 2 years, but I don't look at it as kicking the can down the road. I look at it as our trying to hold out from doing something drastic that would affect our community unnecessarily. We thought that there were other answers that could come to pass, and they could have. Austin could have funded differently. The Vader could have passed. It was worth waiting for that. I think that's a responsible way to handle something this big, is to wait to see what might work rather than closing schools 2 years ago. Now that we are in the midst of having to look at it seriously, it's the current process that does concern me, because now we are rushing. It feels like we're rushing, and it doesn't feel like it feels like we're in such a rush to do it that even the Growth and Planning Committee, as long as they've been looking at it, are concerned that we're getting the information that we need to make a serious decision like this. And they've been looking at it for much longer than we have. They've been delving into the numbers so that they could give us advice, and they're uncomfortable that they're giving us the right advice. So I'm just saying, let's do it really, really thoughtfully and carefully instead of rushing to close as many as possible. So just wanted to clarify that.
A quick point of privilege, just for my community's sake. I will not be here Monday. My vote, if I were, would be not to close either Kitty Hawk or Judson Middle School. I have a work commitment, and so Mondays are really tough for me, so I will not be here, but just want the community to know for the record that would have been my position. So thank you.
Okay. All right, the board will now adjourn into closed session pursuant to the following sections of the Texas Open Meeting Act.
Ms. Ryan, I'm sorry to interrupt you. If the item related to my agenda item, the one that's requesting violations, I'd like that to be an open session. It would be letter C.
I'm sorry, I didn't have my microphone on. Okay, we'll go back to get the attorney consultation on it, and then discuss, and then come back out and open then after. But the attorney consultation will need to be enclosed, and then we'll come back up. And yeah, Mr. Baker gave me a thumbs up on that. He'll talk to us, and then we'll work that one out. So, all right, sorry. We'll now adjourn into closed session pursuant to the following sections of the Texas Open Meeting Act. Pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.071, consultation with attorney regarding legal issues pertaining to an employee's or employees' complaints against trustee Jose Macias pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.071, consultation with attorney regarding legal issues pertaining to possible investigation on abuse of board authority and employee retaliation by Board President Monica Ryan. Pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.071, consultation with attorney regarding legal issues pertaining to possible violations of Texas Penal Code 36.03, coercion of a public servant, Texas Penal Code 3606, obstruction or retaliation, Texas Penal Code 1.07, coercion, Texas Penal Code 39.02, abuse of official capacity, Texas Penal Code 39.03, official oppression, Texas Penal Code 39.06, misuse of official information, Judson ISD policies, BBF local, BBFB legal, DIA legal, DIA local, and the Judson ISD Good Governance Handbook by trustee Jose Macias. Pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.071, consultation with attorney regarding assigning Public Information Act requests to law firms. The time is now 10:53, and we are in closed session.